All right. We're going to wait for some people to come in, but welcome to those who are about to join us. Really excited about the conversation we're going to have tonight. This is our monthly speaker series. For those who are new to our series, I see y'all coming on here. Come on in here. Sorry, we are late. We usually start on time, but we had some technical difficulties. But tonight we have none other the best, the queen, Miss Lagra Newman from Purpose Prep. She is head of school and she is killing the game when it comes to Black children. And I have so much respect for her. And so, welcome, Miss Lagra Newman.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor. It's an honor. And yeah, excited to talk about our work and the impact that we're having and the amazing people who contribute to it. You know, our families, obviously our scholars, our hardworking and dedicated teachers and leaders. Like it's definitely all hands on deck here to make sure that we meet and even exceed the goals that we set forth. So definitely happy to be here and thank you, Nashville Propel, for having me and all of the support you lend to schools here and the accountability too that you hold, so that we are being transparent and fulfilling the needs of the families that we serve.
Thank you so much. You know what? I want to kind of break the ice. Like, tell us a little bit about yourself. I think that's one thing that families don't really get to do. Like, is to know the why
Yeah.
behind what's driving this excellence. So, like, how did you get here?
Yes. I came to Nashville to go to college. I came to attend Vanderbilt University. And when I stepped foot at Vandy, I only knew my education. I knew what my high school was. I went to a magnet high school, an academic magnet high school, so one of the best high schools in the city. I went to a public middle school and I went to a private elementary school. So I had diversity in the experiences academically that I had, but I only knew my my situation. I knew that my parents were really adamant about me getting a great education. I was the first one in my family to go to college, and that was always something that my parents, held very strongly in the sense of like, these are your next steps. Like you need to take, education seriously. So I feel like they really instilled in me the value for an education. It was when I came to Vanderbilt that I had the opportunity to be exposed to other educational paths. So specifically, I was in a work study program and had the opportunity to tutor in some of the local elementary and middle schools in the North Nashville community. And I remember entering into schools and just being shocked by how low performing the the students were, but also the expectations around them was also low. So to be specific, I had a tutoring group that I was supposed to work with when I came. And mind you, I didn't have any pedigree or educational background or experience. I was just a college student working a work study job who was coming to the school to tutor, and they could, put me wherever they wanted me. But they chose to put me in front of some of the most vulnerable children in the school, um, upper academy. So like third, fourth, fifth, when in middle school, like, students that literally could not read. Like I remember like putting books in front of them and kind of having okay, this is too difficult. Okay, this is too difficult. Oh, okay, nope, you can't read this either. Oh, and then getting to the point where I'm like it's not even about words. Like we need to work on letter sound formations. Like how do I even start? How do I support you? How did you get here? Like how is this possible? But then I realized it was a system. It wasn't just, these three students I'm working with when I go into the classroom. Like there's not high quality instruction taking place. There's not rigor. I'm in a third grade classroom and I'm like, why are you not being challenged? Or like, what is the work, questioning the work that was being put in front of them. So it really opened my eyes. It really opened my eyes. And I realized that there was nothing, if I think about what distinguished me from those students, was nothing other than the academic opportunities that I received that positioned me in a path to go to a Vanderbilt University. But had I been sitting in those seats, like, not only would I not be able to be on a path to college, but, like, to be quite honest, I might not even be able to read. And so the reality of that was just really haunting, in the sense of, like, this is so unfair, this is unjust. And I was actually in college to go to law school. I thought I was going to, like, go the path like LSAT. I was preparing in that way. And I was like, this is actually, like, the injustice that I want to work to solve. Like, this is what I feel like is so unfair, because that's what essentially I thought I was going to go to law school to do, like, fight injustices. And I'm like, this is the ultimate injustice. Like, this is just not okay, to be sitting in a school and not producing the type of achievement that our children are capable of, that they're worthy of, that they can achieve. And so to see those systems and to be exposed to that, and to learn that, okay, this is why children are not on track, or this is what happens in the system to, divert children from the opportunity, made me grateful for my education and the decisions that my parents made, but also wanting to be an advocate to make sure that all children receive an education that they deserve and is high quality.
Wow. And so Purpose Prep was born, and I'm looking behind you and I see your mission.
Mhm.
Like, talk to me a little bit about that. Like, what is the mission of Purpose Prep and the vision?
Yeah. So we didn't jump into Purpose Prep. I ended up teaching. I taught in a few different places. I taught in Los Angeles and Watts area. I had fifth grade there, and it was a great experience.
Mhm.
Um, and then I moved to DC and had the opportunity to teach there, as well as be an instructional leader for one of the schools there. I also worked in Atlanta as a recruitment director for the organization Teach for America. So I had a lot of
Ooh,
formative experiences that really shaped the journey of Purpose Prep. And essentially, how Purpose Prep came about, which is really interesting, is I was at a place where I had worked at a lot of different schools, and I was consistently a high performer in those schools. Some of the highest results were coming from the students in my classroom. Um, but recognized that it was only really having, like, a small dent, because it was just in a system of failure. And so an example of that is, I taught fifth grade in LA. I had some of the top achievement, but, like, the middle school that they were going to was one of the lowest performing schools in the entire, city of LA.
mhm.
And so it was just kind of like, well, wait, I'm doing all this work to catch my students to get to grade level and to have the type of achievement. And we're closing those gaps, but they go to this next level, or they go to this next grade level. And so I was just coming to a point where I realized that if I stayed in a system of failure, I would never have the impact that I believed that our children deserved. It would just be kind of a band-aid,
Yeah.
because they'd be in a larger system of failure. And so I wanted to work in a school that was high performing. That was my, like, bottom line. After about 6 to 7 years in being in education, I said, okay, I want to work in a school that's high performing, so that when I send my children to the next level, there's a level of high expectations. There's a level of understanding of, rigor and high quality. Like, I want to be in that environment, and I just wasn't. And so I reached out to this organization that had had some of the highest performing schools. They were known for some of the most successful schools across the country. And I was in DC at the time. And I went to my interview. They were based out of Boston, but they had schools in different states. And so I went for my interview. And I remember just telling them, how passionate I was, how I'd been working in education. And I was at a place where I just needed to do more. And I needed to be in a system that was excellent.
Yeah.
And I was telling them about my vision. And they were literally like, if you want the type of school that you're so passionate about, then we will support you to create it.
Wow.
And I was like, create it, like I'm just trying to work in the school. Like I'm not trying to necessarily, what do you mean create it? Like that was not what I thought I was interviewing for. But just in deep prayer and really just thinking through their training that they would provide me and the exposure that I would get to really be able to create, the vision that I had. Obviously, it wasn't nearly as fleshed out, but it was basically this understanding that everybody in the building would have incredibly high expectations for the children that we serve, a deep love for the community, deep respect and honor for what our children were capable of. We're willing to work hard. We're willing to be dedicated and put in everything that needed to be put in to ensure that our children were successful. So those were the core tenets of what I believed in and believed was possible. And I, prayed about it.
Mhm.
And when I knew that this was something that I needed was a calling of mine, was when they reached out and said, one of the cities that you'd have the opportunity to create this school is Nashville, Tennessee.
Mhm.
And I thought back to my tutoring experience and
Mhm.
I said, you know what? I want to go into North Nashville
Mhm.
and I want to create what I know is possible.
Oh, you about to make me cry.
And
I'm
it
sorry.
hasn't been created before, right? It's
Mhm.
consistently the lowest performing cluster of schools, the Pearl Cone cluster. There's been no high performing elementary school. And I was like, I'm going to go into North Nashville and I'm going to show them what can be done. What is possible when we set high expectations for the children we serve, when we put them in an environment of excellence. And 10 years later, here we are, one of the top schools, not just in the Pearl Cone cluster, but in the entire state.
You're making me cry. Like I'm over here in my glasses. I'm fogged up. Um, I just think about all of the children that didn't have you and don't have you, and it grieves me. I'm sorry, but I grieve about this. I just don't believe that opposite of what you're doing was God's plan for our kids, and I believe His plan is to prosper us.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're doing is you're changing the lives and you're changing the mindset of, and you're changing
Mm-hmm.
generations of people. And I just thank you for that. Let's talk about what Purpose Prep has been doing and what that academic excellence looks like. I know you guys have you got to receive some very high marks. And the thing is, it's not unbelievable. What you have done is you've proven
Yeah.
to Nashville and to the world that it can be done. It can be done. So let's talk about. Let me hear about this.
Yeah, no, it absolutely can be done. I mean, we are doing it. It's possible.
Mhm.
And I think that we've got to first understand that our children are brilliant. I say it over and over. They are so brilliant. They're so brilliant and they've got to be exposed. I I have a daughter, this, and she's 3 and I'm already like putting seeds into her. Like yesterday, let me just sidebar with her cuz she is just when I talk about brilliance, 3.
Mhm.
She came to me where it's almost time to go to bed and she comes to me, she's gotten into a marker and I realized that the marker is now like all over her. Like
Mhm.
she's been putting it, just painting herself with this marker. And I'm like, "Niall, what are you doing?" And she said, "Mommy, I just wanted to disguise myself."
And I mean, what can you say? Disguise
Disguise
myself.
myself. I'm like, "Get in the tub. We gotta get this blue marker off of you." But it's just like you put those seeds in them and they soak it up. She used it contextually, like it's just but she's 3. She's
Mhm.
3 and it's because I use words that I believe that she can pick up.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, she's heard it, I don't, reduce my language. I don't, modify things for her. Like, "You can do it, Niall. We have 2 eggs and we have 5 eggs. How many do we have all together? Count them all. You're 3, but you can count.
Yes.
So it's setting those high expectations. And so I say that just personally for how I'm grooming my daughter, but that's how we think about the scholars of purpose prep. Like, you can do it in kindergarten. Like, you're going to be able to not only add and subtract through story problems, but you're also going to be able to start to conceptualize what it means to multiply and divide.
Mhm.
In 3rd grade, like, you're reading text, like novels, and you're having conversations about the characters and the perspectives of the characters and the conflict that they're dealing with. You're discussing this in your groups. You know, we're putting rigorous work in front of students. Our 3rd graders can write 5-paragraph essays, and it's an expectation. Teach them how to do it. In 2nd grade, they start that foundation. They get formally exposed to what an intro, what a thesis sentence is, you know, what are the 3 body paragraphs, and making sure that they're aligned to what the, thesis was in the intro. What's your conclusion? Like, they can do it. They can do it.
Yes.
And we've got to hold them to that expectation and really make sure that we're supporting them and encouraging them, right? Like, you've got this. I know it's hard, but that's what learning should be. It should be hard because that's how you know you're being challenged. So I say that to say it's not surprising that we're one of the top schools in the district because we are setting the bar so high. And really, I believe that all children can meet that bar. It's just the supports that you're putting into place to make that happen. And so this past year, we had a variety of achievements that we've been celebrating. It's a whole list, but I'll speak to a few. So the first is that we received a level 5 designation in the state for ELA, achievement and growth, and then in math for growth. And, I know that the district has been really heralding this growth, and it's exciting to see so many schools that have had this tremendous growth. But we also have to understand that the year before, we were all virtual pretty much for the majority of the year. So a lot of the scores across the district, including at Purpose Prep, dipped tremendously.
Mhm.
So when you dip, you only, it's kind of like we can only go up from here, right? So
Right.
I think that there's an expectation for all schools that there should be a certain level of growth when you dip so low because children weren't in school. They were learning through a computer. Like, some of them weren't even necessarily accessing the learning that needed to take place through that computer. So we knew that there were some deficits to catch up. I think what has distinguished Purpose Prep is that it's not just the growth that we've had, but the achievement levels have placed our students at levels even pre-pandemic. So where they're performing academically is some of the highest in the district and in the state academically. And so what that means is for ELA, we'll speak about ELA because that's just such a critical subject when you think about the reading and the literacy goals that children need to meet. We are one of only 3 schools in the district, in the entire district that achieved a level 5 for ELA achievement.
Wow.
And then when you think about those 3 schools, Purpose Prep is one of those 3 schools, but the only of those schools that look like Black and Brown children and children with significant levels of economically disadvantaged students. And we're so proud of that, because our children they're just as, if not more, capable, right, of that type of achievement. Other successes is that we're the top elementary. Well, let me make sure I get my data right because I don't want to mess anything up. So we lead all schools. So we're the top elementary school for economically disadvantaged students. And then we also rank number 1 for African American proficiency. So again, achievement. For in ELA among non-selective public schools, and then number 2 for math in the entire district.
I think that's great because I often talk about academic achievement, and I hope the parents hear that you're hearing it from an expert. Growth is fine, but it don't stop there. There's more to the story. We have to keep on going.
Absolutely.
What the words we want to hear is academic achievement.
Absolutely.
Those are the words. And when you don't hear those words, question everything. question everybody.
Very true. Yeah.
Know the truth.
Yeah. We had a meeting with our families about that because we said, there's going to be a lot of schools touting growth, and that's great. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, that is something to be excited about. But when you put a period at the end of the conversation, that is problematic. You really need to move that into a comma and keep talking about what that means. And to give you an example, the schools dipped. Like, when you look at that data from 2020, 21, you're talking about schools that had percentages of 4% of children that were proficient, 3%. So to jump 10 percentage points, wow, that's significant. 20 percentage points even. But we're talking about now still 23%. I mean, that's not, where we need to be when we think about achievement. So I think it's fair to say, hey, like, let's celebrate this growth. Our children are growing, but let's also recognize that we're not where we need to be to ensure that children are receiving an excellent education within our school. If only a quarter or less than a quarter of children are academically successful, that's still a problem. And unfortunately, that like other part of that compound, what needs to be a compound sentence, right? Right now it's a simple sentence. It needs to be a comma and or comma, neck or butt or whatever.
Or run on.
Right. That's the other part that I think, just to be transparent with families and to make sure that they understand that, like, hey, like, I'm not going to mislead you by only focusing on the growth and not tell you that this is still, problematic in terms of the success that we need to achieve. And so that's why Purpose Prep just believes in transparency. We put all our data on our website. We're like, look at it, look at the graph. We want you to know so that you're aware of the success that our children are having. And I think that, when you force yourself to be transparent, there's accountability in that, right? Like, we're going to tell you what our results are, but we're going to work our behinds off to make sure that our results are something that we're super proud to share, so that helps.
I don't want to be in the shame
section. Right. We're going to share it with you, but we're going to do the work, and we're going to put in the work to make sure that they're what we would be proud of. And ultimately, that's what it comes down to. We're proud to work here. We're proud of the success our students have. And I can't tell you how many of the staff members here whose own children go to this school. I mean, my daughter will, like, I'm getting her ready, because
you done said something. When folk won't look, when I worked in the hospital, this is what I would tell people. If I can't bring my family here, I don't need to work here and do this.
Yeah.
You it's just
said you think differently when you're willing to put your own, right? And I think if all of us thought like that, even before, even if you don't have children. I mean, I had Purpose Prep before I had my daughter. Purpose Prep is 10, now it's 3. I was thinking about, them as my children, to be honest. Like, what would I want for my own? Like, this is the type of environment that I would want for my own, which is why, it's going to be easy, in terms of transitioning her here, because I've been planning, even though I didn't, know her then, I was planning for her and for the children that I deeply care about, because they deserve an environment that just not only holds them to high academic expectations, but also affirms them. We're proud to be Black and brown here.
Yes, and you do that so well. You have taught me.
Yes.
If I got somebody's name wrong or something, you straighten me about that. But no, like it didn't make me feel some kind of way. I was like, you know what, she right. I didn't get that name right. I mean, just
names I mean, well, you think about our history, right? And you think about how names were stripped from us.
Yes.
Right? So no, like, we're gonna, and I tell our scholars, we greet them every morning. And I'm literally like, in the beginning of the school year, like, don't let me mispronounce your name. Like, I need to, what is that correct? Like, am I saying it? Am I enunciating it properly? Like, we want to honor the names and who our students are and the experiences that they bring and celebrate them. Like, they need to know that they are just brilliant and worthy. And I think that unfortunately, we live in a society that would try to do everything to tell them otherwise, right? It's a society that is not um, just. It's a society that is inequitable. It's a society that we've been fighting. Um, I mean, since our arrival here.
Mhm.
And we're not where we need to be as a nation. And so
Mhm.
I want them to step into this environment and develop the type of confidence that allows them to go into the world. And if somebody tells them otherwise, they look at them like they a fool. Like, do you not know who I am? Do you not know what I possess? Like, what's wrong with you for you to be I'm so misled in your understanding, right? Like that's the type of confidence that we're
Mhm.
producing here. And like it's manifesting some amazing children who are just so confident in themselves, and we're proud of that.
And you know what? I believe in that same thing. And our parents, as they go through our fellowship, our parent advocacy fellowship, we have a week where we talk about knowing your why, and our parents formally introduce themselves and they say their names with confidence. You are somebody. Tell people who you are, where you
Absolutely.
come from.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Look, we got Cree. So look, let's see if we can take any questions or comments. Yes, teach them to stand up and be proud, says Cree Taylor. Cree has 12 children. And let me tell you something. She is on fire for the kids. She is
So
willing to fight for
we need
kids.
that. We need parents who are just standing up and speaking out and advocating. I
Mhm.
mean, our children are the most important thing, people to us. And
Mhm.
making decisions for where they go to school is one of the most important decisions we can make. And so we need
Yes.
to not only fight for our own children and make sure that they have the educational opportunity that they deserve, but also for other children, to be on those lines and to make sure that we're advocating. And you do that so well, Sonya, with just really making sure that you advocate for Nashville's children.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
definitely appreciate that. And the parents who are part of Propel and the parents just across the district who are
Yes.
demanding excellent opportunity for their children, for our children.
Yes, because they deserve it. They need it. They deserve it. And we're gonna fight for the kids. We're gonna get up every day, and we appreciate the way that you fight for children. You do your thing, and we're gonna do our thing out here. Let's see if we got any more comments here. I think somebody had a question. Somebody said, Laquita says, "Hey, Miss Fitzgerald." She said, "Our children are our future." You got that right. You got that right. Somebody had a question on here that I thought was very interesting. I think it was Cree's question. She says, she asked, "What do you do?" question. She says, "What do you do with students with the mindset of I can't because their school and educators have put it in their heads? How does Purpose Prep turn that around?" So I'm sure you get students. I think what she's saying is they've been in one environment, and then you got to change their whole mindset and help. But so, do you have that to happen? And she's asking, how do you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really sad how early children can internalize those type of negative messages.
Mhm.
You'll be surprised because we started kindergarten, but definitely we'll have students who transition in, maybe even second grade. I could think of a student right now who's doing so well, but when he came in, we were like, we got our work cut out for us because just had been in an environment where he was allowed to opt out of learning.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like I'm not going to do this. Like
Mhm.
no, everybody here does this. Like it's not an
Probably
option.
probably intimidated. Like, can you imagine? Like, I had this
Mhm,
whole conversation
mhm,
with
mhm,
one of my friends. His son plays in the NFL now,
mhm,
and he called me because he posted on Facebook for me not to be getting all the emotion. And I called him. I said, "Look here, TC."
mhm,
I said, "Children dying in these streets. I'm gonna always be emotional." And he
mhm,
was talking about, his experience with his son and how he had him in an environment, and he's so glad that he took him out
mhm,
of that
mhm,
environment.
mhm,
And he said, "I don't think he would be in the NFL today
mm, mhm,
had I kept him in metro schools." And my mouth dropped. But then
mhm,
it closed. I said, "I don't think he'd be in there either." Because he was getting in trouble. He
mhm,
had those expectations for himself. He kept saying what you would say, school is easy. He
mhm,
didn't have to see any value in it.
mm,
he didn't see any value in it.
And that's so the student that I'm referring to, and I've seen students who transition in and they feel they don't feel capable, and so they use other ways to distract from the core reality that they are struggling.
Yes.
And they don't want to be embarrassed, or they don't want a light to be shown on them. And what we do is, one, set a very clear expectation of what we do at Purpose Prep. We are here to learn, we're here to grow. This is the pathway that you're going to proceed upon. But then also make sure that we're providing those supports to students. We jump into interventions to make sure that we remediate, to make sure that we provide additional supports. And so that could look like this student getting even more intensive instruction to be able to close those gaps, but to hold that student accountable for being in that classroom and to being pushing through and creating a culture where other students also understand that we're supportive of each other.
Yes.
We learn at different rates. We learn at, so it would never be acceptable at Purpose Prep to laugh at a student or to make a snide comment. Like, we talk about what does it mean to be respectful of everyone in our environment, and understanding that, even the most struggling student in the classroom, when they're respectful of the learning environment, then everybody's continuing to learn and grow. And we can share the learning with each other. They may not be where they need to be in this topic, but we might be on this lesson and they might have some understanding that could be so valuable to the group. And just respecting and understanding all of the different learners in the space and holding children accountable for respecting that. So it's a very respectful space when we have conversations around our core values and how that supports all of our students to learn at the optimum level. So it's a process, it's working with those students and letting them know that we're not going to give up on them, like, this is going to be, I tell them, like, I don't know what you were able to do at your other school, but you're at Purpose Prep now.
Yes.
And this is what you're going to do, and this is how the student you're going to be. And I tell them, look around. You see anybody acting like that at Purpose Prep? No. That also helps. There might be somebody in like, you see any, this is what we look like over here. We are a top school. You are part of our school. So
yes.
also, like, sewing into them the elitism around learning and growing, and you are too, like, you are chosen to be at Purpose Prep, and it's really this, like, esteem that they start to, and I want to tell you, this student has, like, transformed 180. I mean, you would never know. I mean, and is working hard, is still working to catch up fully, but is working so hard and really, pushing himself and feeling, embodying that excellence. And once you get that inside of them, they're unstoppable.
They are. They most definitely are. And let's see, Laquita says it is important to challenge our children. I want to talk about that a little bit. You just hit on it, but let's talk about it a little bit more, because what we want to make sure is parents are making informed decisions about their children, and if they know that their children deserve better. And I'm going to tell you just a little bit, and Lagra knows my story, but even with my son, like, when I transitioned him into a high performing school, it was very difficult. He was making 18s and 30s, like, on his work. It's because he had never received that type of rigor. He had never, I mean, the expectation had been set low for him. And I didn't even know it. Like, I didn't even know that was the case until I saw better. And let me tell you something, parents. It's a difficult transition for the whole family. We all had to change our mindsets. We all had to gain some confidence. And once we did that, he began to grow and grow and grow. And I'll tell you this, today he texted me. He said, "Are you on your way?" I said, "I'm on my way." I said, "I thought you were at baseball practice." He said, "No, I did not go to practice. I went and got help on my essay." And yeah. So I said, all you gonna do is win, 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 no matter what. I know y'all know that song. I know y'all know that song. The mindset, when you put them in an environment where the mindset, the expectations are high, I guarantee you, your children will adjust. So don't be afraid of that, parents. Don't be afraid to pull them out of a low performing situation. You got to get over it. It's going to be too hard for them. Did you hear what I said? He made 18s he made 30s. But he put in the work because he wanted to do better. He always wanted to do well. And he saw his potential. And there were days where his confidence was low. And I had to step in and say, oh no, you can do this. We got this.
Yeah.
You overcame that obstacle. I know you're going to overcome this. And right now he's in the 10th grade. And let's look at the conversation. I skipped baseball practice because I needed to work on my essay.
Yeah. And that's him taking ownership of his learning. And that's the ultimate level, right? You sow those seeds, and then to see them, sow those seeds within themselves is like really powerful, and you start to see it bloom. So
yeah, I shed a thug tear. I shed a whole thug tear.
yeah. But I think that's so important to share, because we get that too sometimes. Like I've had a few parents who, like they've come to me and they're like, well, I think I'm going to enroll, my daughter, but not my son. He might be, and I'm like, no, enroll your son too, and it's like, well, I don't know at Purpose Prep. And I'm like, the students here are not a certain like profile.
Right.
Well, they're coming from all different, walks of life, the majority of them from North Nashville. So I want to dispel the myth that they have to be they already have to have structure, or they already have to have what we find is that when they step into this environment and the supports that are here, we support all students to be successful here. The moves that we do might look different to support the different students differently, but they can all do really well here. And so I would hate for there to be, parents who are wanting the type of opportunity for their child that Purpose Prep would offer, but then also feeling like, oh, well, no, my child wouldn't. No, they can all rise to this level of expectation when they're held accountable and supported the way that they are here. So, and we take them all. There's no admissions criteria. There's no fees. We want to serve them, and we want to serve them well.
That's beautiful. And I want parents to see what academic excellence looks like. You got to know what that thing looks like and smells like in order to dive into it. And there are a lot of parents, even under the sound of my voice, they've never seen a school like Purpose Prep. You know what you ought to do? You ought to let us bring a busload of parents over there one day.
We will
see.
We would love that. We would love that. Oh my gosh, yes. And then, I mean, you can also, yes, we would love that. Please do that. But also, we've done a few Facebook Lives on our page just to kind of get a glimpse. And we did one. It was so cool. We did it on the first day of school. And that was phenomenal, because parents were like, I see why y'all are so high performing. If this is what learning looks like on the first day of school, and you're doing this like all year long, so there's definitely, that in place to be able to support students. And the other thing I'll say too is, we've been asked like, well, what do you think are the major things that have contributed to your success? And so I want to speak to like a few of those things.
Okay.
The first thing that I'll say is, especially when I think about this past year, when we came back to in-person learning after the pandemic, and we were still navigating the pandemic. We were socially distancing, we were quarantining. So we were still navigating the pandemic, and we still are. But that was the first time that we had returned to the building. And I think that it could have been easy for schools at that time. And it could have been easy for schools at that time to lower the expectations or lower the type of quality instruction that they were providing, because students were coming back with so many gaps. And we fought against those inclinations, right? Like we were like, no, yes, you're coming back, and like our cohorts were lower than in any previous year. But we were like, the only way to get you to where you need to be from an achievement level is to keep that bar high, but then to accelerate the supports that we put into place. So from K to 4, and now we're K-5, but from K to 4, teachers were expected and held accountable for implementing grade level content. Yes, they may be a little bit lower going in because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But if you're a third grade teacher, you are teaching that third grade curriculum.
Yes.
Then what we did was we put more intensive interventions in place. So during independent work times, during enrichment times, after school tutoring, we put in supports to close those gaps. So the bar stayed high, but then we supported students to rise to that bar along the way. And I
Yes.
think that that was such a critical support. And even for our special education department, that was really important too, making sure that our special education students had the supports, that we were looking at their IEPs and still setting really rigorous goals to be able to support them to be successful. So regardless of, if they were low and they had an IEP and we were catching them up, or if they were low and they didn't have an IEP, they were still part of interventions to make sure that they were supported to be caught up. So I think that was like primary thing.
Mm-hmm.
Second thing is, and when you take the bus and you come here, you'll see that our teachers are amazing, like amazing. And they're trained along a common, professional development sequence.
Mm-hmm.
They continue to push themselves in terms of professional development, as well as co-observations. They're constantly growing and learning. There's veteran teachers and instructional leads at every grade level, so they're able to go into their instructional leads classroom and study and learn and build those best practices to share that curriculum. Curriculum is shared across grade levels, and so you're not going to go into a kindergarten classroom and they're, talking about let me give you another example. You're not going to go into, say, a third grade classroom and this used to happen when I taught, where,
Don't get me started with the yellow and the blue team. I talked about that.
well, I feel like people used to be able to pick their content. So you go into one classroom and they're learning about poetry, and you're in another classroom and they're doing biographies, and you're like, wait, what? Like, and they're like, well, I really like poetry and I'm gonna teach my kid these great poems. And the other one's like, well, I want them to learn about, like, that's so arbitrary, and it's based on teacher preference, and that we can't allow that. We can't allow a teacher's likes. There are teachers, well, I was never good at math, so I'm just not going to teach it. Like, that is not.
I ain't never been good at math, so I really don't need to be teaching.
Like straight up, there are teachers who are like, we just gonna let me give some work. No, you cannot do that. So my point is, curriculum is common across the grade levels. So a teacher who maybe she is trying to work through the math concept, she's able to work with her team to get that clarity, to make sure that students still get that lesson. And that way they're traveling along a common pathway, and there's not individual teacher discretion to change the course of learning. Yes. They're all moving the same pathway, the consistency that supports, and it's aligned. So if you're learning these foundational skills in kindergarten, we know that they're going to build upon the foundation you need for first grade and so on up through fifth grade. So it's those type of structures that are just part of what we do. And one more small, this is a small structure, but it's huge. We have a common schedule. So everybody knows the schedule across the school. So if you have a schedule, it's like, okay, you're in science right now. You're in math right now. You're in ELA right now. I used to teach at a school where you created your own schedule. And if you decided not to adhere to that schedule, that was, nobody really cared. Right. So, there were decisions that teachers were able to make where it's like, oh, writing ran over, so we didn't get to science. And now you have multiple days. And seriously, and I'll even say, like, as a teacher, like, I made those kind of mistakes as well. Like, but there was no one holding me accountable as a teacher. And so one of the things that I knew in becoming a leader and really making sure we were creating systems to support teachers through that was, there's a common schedule and we all stick to those times and we hold each other accountable. You've got to end your lesson, because guess what? Someone's coming in to teach science and social studies, or somebody needs to go to this next subject. And so it holds everyone accountable for going through all of the content throughout the school year that needs to be done. So taking those, like, habits that can happen in schools that are underperforming and creating structures and systems so that they don't happen, and that everyone is held accountable for the type of learning that should happen in schools.
But that's leadership. That takes some bold and intentional leadership and accountability and some SWOT analysis. What's working here and what's not working. And people see Mr. Farrell said, I wanted to be a firefighter in an elementary school and was on fire in high school.
All right now.
He said, I think he said that Purpose Prep should have a middle school too.
Oh, our
And a
parents
high
will do
school. Wait a minute, somebody said and a high school.
that. We need one of our teachers who's passionate about starting a middle school. I'll support him, but
Lagra said, Nile is coming and I'm gonna be here.
yes, now is coming. Very excited about the education she'll receive at Purpose Prep, and just thankful that we're able to provide it. Like, that's honestly, like, I have so much gratitude for this work. Like, I was always in education. I always wanted to do it well, like I wanted to be the class that was the highest performing. That's how I was as a teacher. Like, my children are going to be the top of and not in a competitive way. It wasn't about like beating someone else. It was like, because you deserve to be at the top.
Yes. Yes.
And I was always like that as a teacher.
Lead with that even now.
Like, it's how I am. I'm like, we're going to be at the top. Now, again, like, I don't, it's not about you not being at the top, or it's just the fact of like, you have so much potential. You will be at the top. Now we can all be at the top. And that's what I believe. We can all be at the top. And I think that goes to kind of the outreach that we've tried to do in our community of like, come visit our school. Like, we'll share our best practices. We'll share our PD. Like, I would love to do, and my team knows this because they love, they talk about it. Like, we would love to do a North Nashville PD for educators that are in all of the schools.
What stops that from happening? Like, let's go on and be real about that, because the parents need to know, and it's really not a secret, right? But let's talk about like what is the real challenge here.
I think there's a lot of challenges, but I think like first and foremost, there's a lack of accountability and reckoning with the failures that are taking place in schools. And it goes back to the conversation I said about like, there's not enough conversations that say we're not where we need to be, and therefore we're going to do this, this, and this. It's kind of like, well, like, let's celebrate like growth, but you ain't going to tell people that you at 18%.
Well, like, ain't nobody saying nothing but Nashville Propel.
And it would be absolutely okay to say, you know what, I'm at 18%. We've had this growth, and like, here's what we're going to do this year. We're going to get our teacher development. We're going to update our curriculum. We're going to make sure that we're putting rigorous work in front of students. I think there's a lot of excuses that are made. I hear funding a lot. Well, if we had more money, you ain't even doing anything with the money you do have.
Oh,
you're not doing anything with the money you do have. I mean, that's just, like, you're not. Schools receive so much COVID funding.
Yes.
We have so much money. Like, what are you doing with it? Let's hear that part, because if we're always going to have an excuse of what we don't have, it takes away the accountability for what we can do. Oh, well, we could be more successful if we had, and stuff you can't even control. If we had this, okay, but y'all don't. So then, like, what's your plan with what you do have? Like, what did you do with the money you do have? Did you change your books? Did you provide professional development? Did you come and visit a high performing school? Like, that's what we did. We visited high performing schools. Like, we lived down the street. Come and visit, see the practices. Okay, this is the curriculum. Okay, this is how you implement. Okay, this is how you look at data. All right, these are the changes you make instructionally. Well, can y'all come over to our school? We would love to have that type of collaboration. But if you stay kind of siloed in your failure, yes, and then make excuses for why that's the case on everything that is outside of your purview, well, then, there's no change. And quite honestly, I don't think that there's really going to be the type of change that we need until people start demanding it.
Come on now.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Our community is pretty complacent, to be honest. I mean, how can you as a school been able to fail for decades and continue to operate?
Decades. So parents, we got some work to do in these communities. And I want to shout out a few parents, Lagra, if you don't mind, because last week we had a press conference about the low performance schools. We had parents that showed up, they spoke out, and they touched the heart of many parents across this city. Today, we were on News Channel 5 Plus talking about the low performance. So we are making sure that we're amplifying the voices of parents and speaking out and demanding. And then this afternoon, Fox 17 at 9 o'clock, y'all watch tonight. Miss Kimberly gonna be on it. Kimberly Moore, one of our powerful parents, is gonna be on there. She's gonna be talking about low performance schools. But I want to impress upon parents this: we never tell you where to send your children.
Mm-hmm.
But when the house is on fire, do you stay in the house? You got to decide whether or not you're going to get out, how you're going to get out, when you're going to get out, and what an exit looks like. Because as you can see, and as you just heard, what academic excellence is. Now you know.
Mm-hmm.
Now you know what that is and what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And so make sure that you don't wait too long to take the actions that you need to take. And let's make sure that we are making parents all across this city aware of what academic excellence looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna flood purpose preps gates with families. We wish we can get every child in this city in your school. Any last words before we
serve and make sure every seat is full? I'll say, I want to say that I think that there, when I think about the districts, the decades of failure that has taken place in our schools, I think that there could be an understanding of parents that there was nothing better or that there was nothing possible.
Right.
Maybe they had that vision, but no one was realizing that for them.
Yeah.
And so they were kind of stuck in like the options that they did have.
Mm-hmm.
But that's no longer acceptable when you have a purpose prep that is proving what children are truly capable of. And when I tell you, like, our children are the top in the state, Black kids.
In the state, Black kids, right. North Nashville, 37208.
Yes. Yes.
She's over there disrupting and dismantling that thing over there in Nashville. And we are so appreciative of the work that you are doing, Miss Lagra Newman. I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming. She said, what channel? We was on channel 5, 50 plus, 5 plus. I don't know. Fox 17 tonight at 9. We appreciate the work that you are doing without this. These children belong to us. These are our babies, and we appreciate the work that you're doing with our babies.
It's an honor.
Much.
It's an honor. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for allowing me to share Purpose Prep. And I'm gonna hold you accountable. I'm gonna hold you on that bus because I want them to come and I want them to see it and see what it looks like. Because again, the more that we can expose people to what's possible, the more they'll start to hold others accountable for realizing that for them as well. So I'm looking forward.
Y'all gonna get on the bus. Don't be saying that song. I missed the bus trip. So I want to see who's gonna commit to it. So we get a bus, some snacks on there, and we gonna fire up that bus and load that bus with parents from all over the city and go show them what academic excellence. Are y'all with me? Somebody said, yeah. Who's got my back?
Yes.
Victoria said, oh, yeah, I'm on it. Uh-oh, Lagra. Uh-oh. I'll follow you. Okay, don't follow me though.
Yes, absolutely. We love it. We packed up that house that one time. Do you remember that event we had, the literacy event?
Yes.
Packed it out. So I know they'll show up. I know
how we do that again too.
We should do that again too. That was amazing.
We should do that for March during our Get Your Priorities Straight.
Okay.
Summit. Okay, so we already got a place for it. Purpose Prep, Get Your Priorities Straight School Summit, Parent Summit over at the Purpose Prep in March.
Let's do it.
Look, listen, I got your back. I'll beat you there. Look at this.
That's Wilson. She's literally a phenomenal kindergarten teacher at Purpose Prep. I literally am like, don't go anywhere. Now has to be in your class. Man, but yeah, she'll beat us there because she'll be there bright and early.
You know what, Miss Wilson? Thank you for your service. We have to. It's critical that we have great educators.
Yeah,
we know that we need great educators to make change for children. So thank you for your service. We honor you. Thank you. We got your back. All right, y'all. It is 7:02. We started late. We ended late. Miss Laker, thank you again for your time and your sacrifice. We love
Absolutely.
you. Go Purpose Prep.
Yay, love y'all. Bye.
Good night.